Hello, welcome to the first Garibaldi Red of 2022 as we look forward to Nottingham Forest FA Cup tie against Arsenal on Sunday evening, and also discuss a very busy start to the transfer window and what may come in the weeks to follow. And to do so, first of all, we're joined by former Forest midfielder and Sky Sports presenter David Prutton. Hello, Prutz. Happy New Year. You well?
I'm very well, my friend. How are you? Happy New Year. Everything okay with you?
Yes, all well. I have nothing to complain about, I don't think. Probably as we go along. Yeah. And our second guest today is Forza Garibaldi's Greg Mitchell. Greg, hello and Happy New Year. Are you well?
Yeah, great. Thank you. Happy New Year to you both.
Happy New Year, Greg. You all right, mate?
Yeah. Ready to watch some live football.
Yes. Well, Forest were supposed to play Barnsley, but that one was off due to COVID. But I think the Arsenal game will go ahead. Not heard anything to say it won't. But they have been very busy in the transfer market, ahead of practically every other club in the country, actually making two signings already. First of all, Keinan Davis on loan from Villa for the rest of the season, and then Steve Cook on a free from Bournemouth. Shall we start with Cook? I was a bit surprised Bournemouth let him go, Prutz. I know they're doing well, but
yeah,
you want to keep that leadership group together, maybe? Where Bournemouth have had a wobble. I mean, on paper, it feels like a bit of a transfer coup for Forest. How do you view it?
It does, I think, absolutely, as you're saying, as a personality and as a player, the experience that he's got in the Premier League. I think maybe it's just a sign of perhaps the evolution that's going on down at Bournemouth. He wasn't involved in the tail end of the playoffs, was he, due to injury? Then he was out for a very long time. So I think he's been. If you're a Bournemouth fan, which nobody on here is, I'm sure you're saying thanks, Steve Cook, for all your work and your duty, because he's been fantastic, hasn't he, for the club down there in one of their most golden period in the history. So hopefully he brings that to Nottingham Forest. And I think you're absolutely right. I think if you look at the side, which we're going to come on to obviously in detail in due course, that sprinkling of experience with the real effervescence of the younger lads makes for real good chemistry. And the good thing is with Steve Cooper, we've lauded him for the way that he works with younger players and develops players and brings players on. And the good thing is, he's refreshingly ego-free when it comes to dealing with older, experienced players. Some managers of a certain ilk and a certain age, not too happy with older players that may think that they're going to be muscling in on dressing room politics. But from what I hear from Steve Cook and what I've seen of Steve Cook throughout his career, seems to be a player that just likes to roll his sleeves up, get stuck in and lead a group, which I think at this stage of the season, when Forest are just in that position where they're gunning for the playoff places, that's a good position to find himself in.
We are, as ever, live on Facebook and YouTube. So Happy New Year to David, Julie and Ian, who are watching along. And do drop some comments in. We might take a few questions as we go along. Greg, a lot's been made of the kind of not signing players under 26, which I think is actually not paying a fee for players under 26. But it doesn't necessarily follow Forest transfer policy, bringing Cook in. How do you view the signing?
That's exactly what I was going to start with, the 26 rule that seems to have been developed. I love the fact that it really feels like a Dane Murphy and Cooper signing. And yeah, even if they have got these rules that they're going by, they've seen that this guy's come along and, potentially available, and he's a quality player with, he's got 10 years of top, 2 division experience, and he's still only 30, isn't he? He's not an old, you think, like these old centre backs we usually get. He's got 8 or 9 years left. It's just exciting. And you've seen, like, under all the tweets from Bournemouth, like the outpour of an affection for him. Yeah, it sounds like the injury is the reason that he came out of favour down there. But God, to our benefit, I think it's fantastic. Worrall, him, McKenna, I know we'll probably get onto it, but I really think that those three together for the second half of the season, I'm going to be quite positive and surprisingly.
Yeah, if we go with a back five, we'll come on to Jed, obviously, Jed Spence in more detail, but Spence, Worrall, Cook, McKenna, and Lowe when he's fit. Protz, is that up there with most back fives or defensive units in the league now?
I think it sounds as strong as some of the best ones, I'd say. Not just strong physically, but mentally. A good back and foundation and basis for the side is something where the more attacking-minded players, which I think we've seen since Steve took over, he allows those players to go forward, to express themselves, to flourish. And what is imperative in that is that you make sure that everything at the back is pretty tight and sealed off, which you get the feeling with those that is. And just to pick up on Greg's point, it's such a good point, because there's sometimes a bit of a preconception about a player of a certain age moving to a certain club at a certain period of time. 30 years old, he doesn't strike me as a player that's just come to make the numbers up. And I think as well, when you get to that age, when you have had an injury, when you are thinking in perception terms about how 30-year-old footballers are viewed, then he's got to prove himself. He looks to me like a player that will come in and want to play every single game, that will want to be there in training all the time, that will want to be the example that's set to the rest of the squad with the other players that do exactly the same thing. So I think that don't underestimate the power of the motivation that comes when a footballer of a certain age sees the end in sight, but gets the chance to go and play for a club such as this and think, do you know what? This platform, and again, without being cynical about it, it's mutually beneficial. If he plays out of his skin between now and the end of the season, and someone comes in and says, we'll take him, that's a different debate. If he comes in and plays out of his skin and Forest goes, do you know what, do you want to stick around for another couple of years? Happy days all round, isn't it? So it's that perfect partnership right now that benefits both parties. And as you say, that back, we say back five, but in the way that he's gone about it, Steve Cooper, it's a three with two lads absolutely tearing forward, isn't it? Which I think is what Forest fans have come to know and appreciate and enjoy with the way that Steve set his side up.
Yeah, definitely so. I think when he signed, everyone said straight away, "Oh, that's it, Worrall's off." And there's honestly no indication of that at all. I know Sarah Clapson did a piece saying that Newcastle and Burnley are interested.
Are they the sole? Sorry to put him out. They're the sole two clubs that, obviously, it's rumours and conjecture, but are they the clubs that have been chucked out? Just those two around Joe?
Yeah, at the moment, it changes all the time, doesn't it? I mean, that was what I was going to say. You know, Newcastle and Burnley are looking at him. They've not bid. No one. He's come close to going, and I think I wouldn't be surprised if he goes in the summer. I don't think he's going to go this January. I mean, it can change, can't it? But do you think maybe the end is nigh for actually Figs now, Greg? Figueiredo looks like he might be the one that's struggling.
And yeah, you know, he's a good option off the bench, but I think he's probably happier. You hear stories that he'd be happier back home anyway, wouldn't you? And I think he has been good for us. There's obviously been mistakes there, but you know, if it is replacing Figs, that's a fantastic. It really is a good signing. And the good thing is as well, having those three, they're all three quality leaders as well. They're all captains in their own mind, and if we do have to like play some of the youngsters in against Arsenal or something like that, just having one of them at the back's going to change a lot of things for them. So yeah, going back, if Figs goes, you know, wish him all the best. There's certainly no hard feelings here, but yeah, he's going to have to either play out his skin to get back in the team, or maybe he's happily looking elsewhere, sunnier climates.
Put yourself in Worrall's shoes if you could, Prutz, because you've been that young player who, you know, you wanted Forest to go up when you were playing, but someone took a chance on you in Southampton. I suppose you need that in a sense, don't you? I mean, how do you think Joe's viewing the situation? We don't know him well, but
how old's Joe now?
24.
24.
He doesn't seem like he wants to have his head turned or everything.
No, that's what I've always liked about Joe. Even more so around when it comes to when Forest are playing Derby, he likes to drop a few bombs in here and there, doesn't he? When he's discussing pre and post match stuff with that. 24 is a different. I mean, casting your mind back to 2003, which was when it was. So I'd have just turned 21. And the Forest side that we had was very much in the mix, very much going in for promotion. It's funny because I was chatting to Paul Hart about this a couple of months ago. And then bit by bit, and financially the club was in a slightly different position. But it's that sliding doors moment. Whatever decision he makes in the moment is the right one, I feel. If we'd have kept that side together with the likes of, say, JJ and obviously Dawson and Reedy moved on after me, that it could have been a side that managed to climb back into the Premier League. And obviously since then, it's been a very, very, very long period of time since they've been back there. And looking back, it turned out for reasons. I mean, professionally, my career probably didn't go in the right as far as I wanted it to go. But I always think you end up with a career that you probably deserve with regards to decisions made and the way the kind of fates and the stars align. But personally, if I'd have not gone there, I might not be sat here with the family that I got. So it's a different, you know what I mean? It swings and roundabouts with that. So it's but from Joe's point of view, 24 is a different age. 24 is really coming into the meat of your game and your career. And the other thing is as well, and I think we're beyond as football fans. I think we're happy enough to understand and appreciate the finances involved. If Newcastle come in for him and say, Joe Worrall, come and sign for us for 4 years, and you get X amount of thousands of pounds a week, hundreds of thousands of pounds a week, then that puts in a different stratosphere. And hopefully Forest fans that are watching this and listen to this understand where that's coming from, because the history and the heritage of what Nottingham Forest is, as opposed to what Newcastle United is, even though Newcastle United is this ginormous football club up in the northeast, packed out every week, 50,000 fans, all that type of stuff. They love their club as much as Nottingham Forest fans love their club, and we absolutely understand that. But given where Forest are and where Forest could be, as opposed to where Newcastle United are right now, it would be. And I'm not saying he's playing for chicken feed at Forest. He won't be, but it'll be an astronomical amount of money involved in that type of decision for a young man at 24 that could change his life, his kids' lives, his grandkids' lives, things like that. And I understand that that's not the question that you're asking there, but from a footballing point of view, the glory that comes with getting Forest back into the Premier League and what goes is perhaps going to Newcastle and keeping them in the Premier League are two different things. So I think they need to fight tooth and nail to keep him. And I think from Forest's point of view, if it's a case of let's see where we are at the end of the season, happy days all round, isn't it? And I think even Forest fans, given the service that he's given, wouldn't begrudge in that position that if this season doesn't go according to plan, Joe then moves on.
No. But like I say, there's no indication he's actually going, and Forest certainly aren't.
I'm talking like he's gone. No.
No.
Yeah. Everyone burning Worrall shirts out in the streets. Rubbish.
Did you meet your wife on the South Coast then?
Yeah. Her father played for Southampton, who was a fundamentally better player than I ever was, but still managed to get almost as big a ban as I did. So that's where the lineage comes in. And when we're down there, my son's very keen to tell his pool of friends that are down there that his granddad played for Southampton, and I'm kind of stood there going, which if you're a Southampton fan would probably say, yeah, it's really accurate with regard to his take on that. But hey, long time ago. Let's get back to the here and now.
Oh, well, one other thing, you did have a good career. Weren't you like England's under-21 record appearance holder for quite a while?
Yeah, but who took over the under-21?
Well, James Milner, wasn't it, I think? Did James Milner overtake you?
Platt.
David Platt. I'm not saying there's any form of nepotism there, but I think, and knowing you boys haven't spoken to Paul Hart and you know what his cutting humour can be like, I think he'd said after he took over and Paul was in charge for a bit that about giving me a kick up the backside to get in the 21s, not just because your mate's in charge. It's a little bit like, geez, Paul. Yeah, I mean, and what if I'll be honest, whatever happened to James Milner after the 21s, God knows.
No, poor career. 1-0 with no one. Right.
Yeah, terrible shape. Over the hill at whatever 47 years old he is, still fit as a butcher's dog. Like he's sick.
Back to Forest and the present day. Where shall we go next? Well, I'll just say a word on Brennan Johnson that there's no indication he's going either. His dad's very adamant he's staying on Twitter, we saw, and he's happy at Forest. So the other one I went to about, obviously, Jed Spence, Greg. I thought he was going. I mean, all indications were that he'd go back. So initially, how relieved are you that Jed Spence is here for the rest of the season?
It just, again, it points out where we think we're going. And he clearly loves it down here as well. Going back to Worrall, like between Newcastle and Burnley, you think, God, I couldn't understand him going to Burnley, but Newcastle, where they're supposedly going, you could. And I saw that with Jed Spence. He's just loving his football in Nottingham. He wasn't getting the opportunities in Middlesbrough. But God, last week when their manager, when Wilder came out with what he did, it was so obvious he'd gone. I'd like come to peace with it. So what a brilliant piece of work it is. One, because we've got him till the end of the season. If he plays out his skin, we're probably in the top 6. And if we don't make it, fair enough, he'll probably be in the Premier League because he's looking like he's going to deserve that. But if we manage to get up there, then I'd imagine he's the first signing. So it's just brilliant work again. I can't praise him enough for his loyalty towards us, because we've given him a good run of games and he's been superb. And for the club to be able to get it done so quickly, because it looks like one of those again where we're all in turmoil. We've just lost another game, 2 games on the bounce, and we've lost arguably our best player of the season. So, yeah, great work.
I suppose we have to give Dane Murphy a lot of credit, and the club backing him, and the owner's pumping a hell of a lot of money in Prutz. I mean, what would you, if Middlesbrough? I mean, I'd have recalled him just to stick it to Forest. It was like Forest did with Albert Adoma last season with Cardiff.
Without making anyone sound petty, I was really surprised. And given us what Greg's saying there, the form that he's been in, I've seen for quite a while at Borough, but he's played consistently better at Forest. And that fresh pair of eyes that Chris brought in, given where they are as well, But then, I mean, Chris has also said that, I mean, they're not recalling any loan players from what I've read, whether it's whoever's up at the end of January or whoever's up at the end of the season. Whether that means that they've got their eyes on other permanent or loan signings of their own, that they don't want to just fill spaces, which given, I mean, it's a bit of a broader discussion, isn't it, about fulfilling fixtures with regards to COVID absentees, but that's a different thing. But I was really surprised. And I think... That must mean that either Chris has got several aces up his sleeve with regards to who they want to bring in, but as you say, with regard to what Dane's done and what Steve's done as well. I mean, and again, we've talked on this so many times, and I don't want to be needlessly over gushing about what Steve Cooper's attributes are, but a 21-year-old Jed Spence maybe thinks, well, hang on, I've played really well for 6 months here. Let's see what the rest of the season holds for me. And as Greg says, you get another 6 months under your belt, such as that. And as we know, that position, specifically the most recent kind of incumbent in it, it's a great shop window, isn't it? If you play that well, suddenly someone at the pyramid, if Forest don't go up, say, oh, we quite like you, and we like the way you play. Do you want to fancy coming and playing for us in the Premier League? So, again, mutually beneficial all around, and just quite surprised that Borough didn't exercise that right to bring him back.
Prutz alluded to Matty Cash there, Greg. It's a bit of a frivolous question. I've seen some fans discussing it on Twitter. I mean, who's better at this stage if you had to have a choice, Cash or Spence?
I think Spence is a year behind Cash, we'll say.
Yeah.
I get the same feeling sometimes watching Spence when you're like, well, I can't swear, can I? But he's doing...
Unless you're at the City Ground and Prutz swears profusely and we have to edit it heavily.
That was awful. Sorry.
He's doing those things that make the crowd get excited, just like Cash was. Obviously, if it was who's going to start next week, they're both fantastic players, but Cash is just, a real cut above at the minute, and he's proving it. And, he was never a defender, was he? So I think Spence is one of those that's looking, look what happened to the last guy, and there's no reason at all he couldn't either do it with us next year or sign for a quality Premier League team like Cash did.
True.
Just to give my 2 pence worth on that, I saw Matty away at Norwich just before Christmas, and with the greatest respect to Norwich, they were out the races, and obviously Stephen Gerrard's gone on at Phil, and he was fantastic. He was a joy to watch. Again, I'm not saying you kind of pull for the players that you kind of spent a bit of time with or discussions with. But again, another thoroughly nice kid that's worked his socks off to get to where he is, and the fruits of his labour are there for all to see. And obviously now on the international stage, giving him that platform, it seems to be the kind of kid that you look at and you think, do you know what, you deserve all that because of how hard you've gone about it and how you've gone about it as not just as a player, but as a person as well.
True. So Cash went to Villa. Forest have returned to Villa to take Keinan Davis on loan for the rest of the season. It's interesting that he doesn't have much of a goal record, but when I speak to colleagues in Birmingham about him, they say he's very much a traditional, old-school centre forward, holds the ball up well, and he could be a really good player, but he needs a run of games and to prove he can finish. What do you think about it, Greg? It's probably not the most inspiring signing, but could it be quite a clever one, do you think?
I know nothing about him, and the comments from all of us that seem to know so much more, some were quite negative, but then others were saying he's like a better Lyle Taylor. He'll do the Lyle Taylor job, only a lot better. He's young. You've only got to look at who have been signing recently and how well they've gone. That Cooper and Dane again have clearly recognised him and seen something. So for me, delighted. Again, we're making more signings. We've made more signings than any other team in this division. We're clearly the ones trying to make the move. So, give him a chance. Sunday could be the perfect opportunity for him as well. It's kind of a risk-free game to get him going, isn't it? And God, play well against them, even if it is they're mainly under 23s, then you're going to get on the right side of the fans straight away.
It feels like a good move, Prutz, doesn't it? I mean, a player who's played in the Championship for Villa. He very nearly went to Stoke in the summer, so they're a good Championship club. It feels like a sensible one.
No, I think geographically, possibly it works. Sometimes when a player goes on loan and it's a bit too far away from home, even though we're talking about a 24-year-old here, that sometimes there's that slight, settling in period that takes a while. But from what I've heard, it's funny because I was speaking to Andy Hinchcliffe about him, and he was talking about a player that he'd seen a lot of in the Championship, that too old to be described as raw. 24, you shouldn't. You know what I mean? You should the finesse that comes to whatever your game is should be moulded pretty well there. I think you're right to talk about the goal scoring ratio, but saying that he's not had stacks of games under his belt. I think what comes from it is when you watch Keinan in action, it's that decision making when it comes to putting the ball in the back of the net, which I've made it sound both common sense and easy. It's neither of those things at all. And it's about the choice of shot. It's about the choice of finish. And I think that's where maybe given a run of games, that'll come into it. We've all scored bagfuls of goals in training, but it's a bit different when you're bearing down on goal and there's a lot of supporters behind one end and a big goalkeeper coming out. I think that's where it is. It's the choice that he makes when it comes to taking a shot on goal, and whether it's a case of, as some of the best strikers do, some feel it into the bottom corner, some have got a real grace with it. I think that's where Keenan's evolution as a footballer will come, and hopefully with the games that he gets. I mean, you look at, we'll probably come on to it, the Huddersfield game and the amount of chances that are created in a game such as that. I don't think he'll find himself in a side that's lacking for chances or wanting for chances at all, will he? So then it comes down to his responsibility as a forward. Can he get on the end of what's put into the box?
Where do you think it leaves Lyle Taylor, Prutz? He looks like the third man now, doesn't he?
It's a funny one with Lyle, because having seen him score bagfuls of goals, there is very much a player in there that can be prolific. I'm intrigued from Greg's point of view. And this is me not passing the buck on passing any form of judgment on him, because, as I said, there's a player in there that can score goals. It's just whether, under Chris, was he facilitated to score those goals? I mean, you could say he wasn't, and neither was Lewis, because games were crying out for two up front. Never really happened, did it? It was just quite methodical and slow in the way that he went from back to front. But from that player, Greg, that puts the shirt on and goes to battle for you supporters, does he tick enough for the boxes? I mean, I'm talking about the very boring things like, and again, a clogger such as me will always rely on stuff like this. Whether the heart's there, the legs are there, the want to get about the pitch, and if you're not getting those goals, are you doing all the other supposed cliched mucky stuff? Does he do enough of that for you when he's on the pitch?
The want's there. He's always the one that always stands out to be chasing down the goalkeeper when the goalkeeper's not picked it up. I'll say that straight away. Like you say, like starting under Houghton, it all seemed to be hold up play, like get the ball, hold it up, and so you look at players like Brereton up at Blackburn. They were slating him for 2 or 3 years. Suddenly it clicks. He scored 20 in half a season. I don't see that happening with Taylor, obviously. But he does seem to be in that category with Forest fans as the bit of the target lad now. And he'll need goals to change that, and whether he'll get them now. It seems like this player has come in to do his role. Whether he gets that, or you might see him go out on loan, I don't know. But he's not really done enough, has he? Let's be honest. For Forest fans saying, no, he's a good player. Is it? Give him another chance. It's not been there with him. So, yeah, jury's not completely out, but we'll see.
Yeah, they're deliberating long into the night, I think, at the moment. I mean, if he were to go tomorrow, then you'd slate him as a very disappointing signing. So you'd kind of hope the motivation's there, wouldn't you, Prutz, to really prove a point? Because he's sort of in the last chance saloon now.
Yeah, well, if Keinan comes in and hits the ground running, then that's where that comes into it. Then you've got to try like a bear in training. You've got to make sure that you're part of the squad first and foremost. Then hopefully on the, because it's always felt like Lewis plus another, isn't it? And with the way that his goal ratio in the second tier is relatively unquestionable, I'd say. I mean, even though Forest themselves haven't been the most prolific over the last couple of seasons. And that the focus and the attention does kind of boil right down to what a striker's doing. But because there was quite a big fanfare, wasn't there, when Lyle came in? Because there was that position at Charlton where he said, "Well, I'm not playing because I've got something lined up." And then you look at, wow, Forest have taken a punt on him. And then you think, with the confidence and the personality they play, I thought it would have been a case of hitting the ground running. But sometimes in situations, and this is me trying to vouch for him and mitigate. Sometimes, and again, apologies to fans if they think this is a bit of hot air, but it doesn't necessarily fall into place. You know what I mean? Confident striker knows where the goal is, puts Forest shirt on, carries doing what he did. Sometimes something doesn't click. And as Greg says, if you're there as a hold-up player, with the way that Forest played, because if I remember rightly, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, it wasn't a case of he was holding the ball up and you had 3 or 4 players flying past him, did you? It was like, hold the ball up and we'll all look at you while you're holding the ball up.
Yeah.
And then maybe go that way and then maybe go that way. And that's not me slating the way that Chris set the team up. That's just the way that he's done it. Start at the back, keep it tight at the back, move forward. So sometimes things just don't work. But maybe, again, to try and twist it onto the positive, Keinan comes in and collectively gives the front line that kick up the backside it needs to make sure that every single player, whether they're dropped in or dropped out or comes onto the pitch, performs when they're called upon.
Yeah. I mean, the last thing I'll say on Taylor is I don't think anyone would have scored many goals in that team last season, would they, Greg? Obviously, Graben didn't. Glenn Murray, who you work with now, Prutz, fantastic career, and he got 2 goals for Forest and barely looked like scoring anymore. Just a bit of a nightmare.
It's funny. It's funny when I've spoken to Glenn about that because he's as you would have known speaking to him, he's a very honest fella, and he's just kind of said it didn't quite click up for. Obviously, scored on his debut. You know what I mean? You're thinking, oh, here we go. But like you say, I think that's what you're alluding to when you said about players that have come in with the pedigree, like someone like Glenn's got, who quite obviously knows where the goal has been throughout the course of his career, and it didn't just click. So when we're looking at Lyle Taylor, we're not just saying Lyle's come in on his own and not done this. Collectively, as a strike force in the last couple of seasons, you've not had that type of player, and whether that's because that type of player, and maybe the example's a bit of a huge one. And you look at like how many goals Mitrovic has got, how many goals Solanke's got, how many goals Ben Brereton Diaz has got. That's taken a long time for Ben to click into gear. £6 million player that's got to the age that he's at and suddenly burst into the form of his life. Sometimes it's a combination of good coaching and the player maybe getting his head around the fact that I need to pull my finger out here. Maybe that's been a case of it. But I just think, given the way that Steve's setting the team up moving forward, I think there is more scope for forward-thinking players to get on the score sheet more, which, again, it sounds so easy and so straightforward, but it hasn't been the case, I don't think. Hence why the fact that we've not had Forest smashing up the top 6, you know what I mean, in those particular seasons.
True. Last player I want to talk about before we get onto the Huddersfield game, the Arsenal game, is Harry Arter, who snuck in through the back door as Forest signed Steve Cook yesterday. He's returned from his loan spell at Charlton, where he couldn't get in the team. In a struggling League One side. But you look on Twitter, never the best place to look. There's a few Forest fans saying, give him a chance. I know. Give him a chance. Look at what happened with Ben Watson, for example. What do you think, Greg? He can't play in the FA Cup against Arsenal, which would have been kind of the potential thing to put him back in as a final chance. So he'd have to play in a league game. Can you see him getting another chance, Greg, or not?
I think the chances are very high, just because with all these, these players dropping out left, right and centre, it's unprecedented, isn't it? So we've kind of been given this player back without really wanting him. I'm sure if Charlton had said, can we have him for longer, we'd have said absolutely. But there's probably going to be a time in the next couple of months where we do need to call on him. So, hold the pitchforks, just hold him back a bit and he might be playing. So He's not done very well with Charlton, has he? Did you say he'd been injured earlier? I'm not sure. But
I think he had a bit of a hamstring injury, but I was reading quotes from Johnny Jackson, the manager, saying he couldn't get in their side.
Yeah, so he's not the kind of player.
Omen.
He's not the kind of player you're thinking, right, this is the guy we've got for the promotion push, but he's certainly a player that he's sat there now, and if 2 or 3 in his position have to drop out for a couple of games, then he's going to come in. So let's wait and see. You never know.
Yeah,
I think to be fair, sorry to put him out, that's a great point that Greg makes because of what we've seen with COVID. If you take the Huddersfield game, for example, you got Silva and Ojeda that came into the side. I thought Silva did really well. He looked pretty tidy on the ball. Ojeda, I mean, didn't see. I mean, it's never a good thing when you see a player go running off to get subbed and you think, "Oh Christ, he's still on the pitch." You know what I mean? But not in a bad way. But sometimes these games can pass you by. But so that strength and depth has got to be there. And Harry's experience, his ability in a promotion push internationally and in the Premier League. I think again at times, a couple of instances when we'd spoken after games and we'd looked at the team shape, or we were covering games at Sky, and you were trying to work out who's playing where, and then when it gets to the point where you're going, so Harry's playing number 10, and you think, right, that doesn't suit him. And I think even I've heard whispers that even when that was then proposed to him, there's a bit of a head scratch and looking around saying, all right, so I'm playing number 10, which if you're a player such as he that busies himself in midfield, sometimes that extra 10 yards can change the dynamics of what you're good at. So, as you say, it's still a Forest player. I think from Greg's point of view, which I know I'm not just blowing smoke up your backside, Greg, but you do present a very balanced view, which is something that I really quite enjoy. That not just harbouring players for the sake of it, but if you are looking at promotion push, sometimes the more the merrier. If he knows how to get a team over the line like he did with Bournemouth, if he knows how to manage the emotions of what a top 6 tilt could be, maybe Steve Cook comes and brings something out of Harry that they remember from the time on the South Coast. You just don't know, do you? So, as you say, keep the jury out for now and see where they are at the end of the season. Yeah,
if the manager, if Steve Cooper thinks he should play, then absolutely, we'll all bow down to that. I suppose my one concern would be, does he push Tyrese Forner further down the pecking order? Although you could loan Tyrese out and give him an opportunity there as well, I suppose.
I don't think he does at the minute. I can't see that. But, there's a game coming up bigger than Arsenal, isn't there? And if he's called upon for that and he does something right, then absolutely everything's forgotten and he's a club legend, isn't he, for the rest of his career? So it's just football's weird, isn't it?
Or top someone in the first minute.
Exactly.
Goes jogging off and was like, oh...
Last minute, it'd be all right.
To one of their key players, you'd be buzzing that when you grow.
Well, before we get to Derby, we should look backwards at Huddersfield. Prutz, I asked you to come on, badgered you to come on this and message you and really messed you around, saying because you saw the game.
I just like to play hard to get because I'm petty.
When you played it very well,
like that.
So you did the game for Sky. What was it? A bit of a free game? It struck me as a bit of a free game. And Forest had 24 shots, and Brennan Johnson missed 2 really good chances. How did you view the game?
Yeah, on another, obviously Zinchenko hit the bar as well. That's more of a wonder goal, not wonder goal, a superb strike if that goes in. But it was a Huddersfield side that started brightly. They hit the bar themselves, didn't they? And they had a glorious chance just after half time, which was a sitter really that was missed. I think it was Sinani. I can't remember who it was. But I think you saw Forest side there. And again, much changed. Steve alluded to it before the game about not having players available. First choice players in that sense. You get Jack playing in an unfamiliar position. But watching Brennan and again, when you are talking about him on TV like we do, I obviously know his dad very, very well. And you're looking at it hopefully from a purely objective point of view, but it's just a joy to watch. You know what I mean? He gets up, goes again with the wonderful backup of what Jed's got behind him. That real fresh-faced kind of naivety about just running and running and running, not for running's sake, but adding that last portion of the game to what he's about, i.e. that final ball. He did have a couple of good chances, which on another day you'd like to think that he would have stuck away. And then it would have felt like a pretty comprehensive victory for Forest. But that's what I was asking Michael Dawson about it afterwards. And sometimes in games such as that where you watch it, and I'm sure Forest fans came away thinking, not that there was a glut of clear-cut chances, but there was enough good chances to walk away with 3 points that you kind of scratch your head thinking, how on earth that happened? And sometimes you have to take your hat off to the fact that clinical finishing does sometimes help. I thought Forest let themselves down with the conceding of the goal because it was switching off. It was a good turn by Dwayne Holmes, and again, he enjoyed every single moment of that, didn't he? Scoring at the Trent end especially. But that's the fine margins. If you're not going to take your opportunities, you've got to make sure that defensively you're very sound and resolute. And in that instance where Jed was left on his own with the 1-2 leading to the goal, that's where Forest let themselves down. But again, Steve came out afterwards, couldn't fault the effort, the endeavour, the opportunities created, the fact that they're operating in a period of matches where a lot of games were called off. More power to Forest for getting it on, bringing the players in, like I said, as Oyeda and Silva, and getting the game done. But I think there was enough in there, hopefully, and I'd like to take Greg's take on this, that even though it was a defeat, if there's a way to lose, there's a lot of positivity in the sense that you've been beaten by a side that was pretty high in confidence and had done well in the last couple of games to come back from goal deficits. So if you're going to lose like that, but make sure that that's parked and you move on to the next one.
Last 2 games have been a bit weird, haven't they, Greg? I mean, they've passed one into their own net against Middlesbrough and then played really poorly in the first half, and then by contrast lost in a very different way. What do you think about it, how it's shaping up?
There's always the second half, isn't there, with Forest? Like, you have a poor first half. The way we come out the second half is superb. It was gutting, that Huddersfield game. You know, you walked out, didn't know what to do. You certainly clapped them off the pitch because they couldn't have tried any harder to get it in the back of the net. And I'm sure they'll take a lot from it because, you know, that you don't have that many chances without scoring. The stats after it were, you know, ridiculous. But like you say, you just got to chalk it off. There's loads of positives to take from it. And I'm sure the players that were on the fringes that got a game and played very well will be like raring to go again now. But yeah, God, if we'd have got the result, which we should have, we'd have been in a hell of a position now after playing like we did. But, you know, next time we'll probably have a poor game and win.
You still booking the Forza Garibaldi Open Top Bus Parade, or are you not that confident?
Yeah. I think top 4 at the minute. I've gone off the top 2 a little bit, but we're signing. In all seriousness, we're signing the players. If Forest were content with saying we'll give it a go next year, we wouldn't be doing what we're doing now. And they're clearly thinking we've got a cracking chance here of getting in the top 6, and all the fans know we have now. It was a bit of a joke a few months ago, but now it's like serious contenders for those top 6. And yeah, the last 2 results, we could have easily got 6 points out of them, and wow, the position we'd been in. We didn't, but we're still well in the fight. So, you know, making the signings and keep going.
Who are you liking right now, Prutz? I mean, obviously, Fulham and Bournemouth look good. Albion are having a horrendous wobble, but they've signed Daryl DK. I mean, who are the teams to watch in the second half of the season for you?
Well, I think Blackburn have been fantastic. That's obviously dependent on, and not just a one-man team, but if someone comes in with a ridiculous bid for Ben, then that puts their season in a different position. QPR getting about the business pretty quietly and effectively, and Huddersfield's a strange one as well because they've been a mixed bag where they started the season really well, tailed off, and then they've come back strongly and shown some real kind of character and fight. Borough, as we've already mentioned, a team that's nicely, I'm just looking at the table here, nicely poised around where Forest are. I mean, you look at the fact that they're 5 points in front of Forest. And then Bournemouth seem to have righted themselves, and Fulham have almost been a little bit Jekyll and Hyde. I think it was good that the top 2 had a bit of a wobble. As a neutral, you're kind of hoping that brings everyone back into it. And whether Daryl DK going in at West Brom has the desired effect to quell a few of the murmurs that are coming from Baggies fans about the way that Valerian goes about his football. I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, if they play the kind of football that they played and smash up the top end of the table and go up again, it becomes a bit of a moot point, doesn't it? But I think as even though it's our kind of MO and what we cover a lot at Sky, it feels to me that it's as open as it has been for quite a while. There was almost a sense of the processional when it came to, I think it was Fulham going to Preston. They ended up drawing, but if Fulham would have won that, they'd have been 11 points clear of third place in kind of November time, which is kind of going not great for the competition. But I think I agree with what you're both saying there. And even though Greg's kind of rode back from gate crash in the top two and slumming it in the top four, it's a team that's recruiting for now. I don't think I think the days of building and saying using that kind of buzzword of it being a project and a journey. The journey is right now. It's got to be right now. Getting into the Premier League is absolutely that first port of call with Forest, as it is with probably 12 teams in that division right now. So there's no point looking, even though Steve is a man that likes to be at a club like he was at Swansea for a while and create something. He very much operated in the here and now, and I'm sure Dave Murphy's not coming to say that hopefully Forest will get in the Premier League by 2025, given what it is and that huge disparity that now exists between, bigger than it ever has been, between the Premier League and the Championship. Why not now? My question to the Forest players and the managers, why not now? Because if not now, when?
True. Time's getting on. We should talk about the FA Cup tie against Arsenal. What are you thinking, Greg? Big upset, or go full tilt with the team, or would you like to see maybe, like we mentioned, Tyrese Forner play, or Jada, Horvath in goal? Maybe what kind of team would you like to see named?
It's going to depend on how many are out through COVID, because Cooper only said just over a week ago the squad's riddled. So how many of them are back's going to factor, isn't it? But yeah, I think we've got to expect it might be our only chance this season now to play some of the lads that aren't going to be getting games very often. So we've got to do that. We can't be thinking about the cup run now. The priority has to be the game after that. And yeah, exactly. All those players that you just stated should be seeing some of the game at least. And I don't think any Forest fan's going to moan if they do that. We seem to play Arsenal every year. It's not that massive time.
They're bored of them now, aren't they? Arsenal again.
It was a bit of a joke that it was going to be Chelsea or Arsenal. So nobody's massively like, I can't wait to play this big Prem club. Not interested. So yeah, play some of play some of these players that certainly deserve a chance and that we're going to possibly have to call upon for 90 minutes in a massive league game in the coming weeks.
What do you think, Protz? What was your view of the FA Cup as a player? Was it a bit of a bind in those early rounds or not?
No, it was amazing. No. I have two standout memories of it. When I was at Forest, I was made captain for the game against West Ham at Upton Park, which we lost.
Reed scored a great goal.
Moved to Southampton, and they subsequently got to the cup final with me being cup tied, which was great fun. But then the cynic in me thinks that if I'd have been playing, they might not have got to the cup final, to be fair.
I just Googled that final to check if you played and thought it'd be too cruel to raise it, but you raised it yourself.
No, I was there cheerleading on from the sidelines at every round. I remember a game at Millwall, which there's a big burly dude behind me that was giving our players all kinds of dog's abuse, and then was on the pitch at half-time welcoming kids on for the birthday. Oh, this is happy 5th birthday to such and such. I'm thinking, oh my God, if they'd have heard what you were saying for the first 45 minutes, you wouldn't be let anywhere near a microphone ever again. And then I think one of the semi-finals was at Villa Park, which is the kind of stuff that kids' dreams are made of, even though I wasn't part of it. But you're thinking, this is a big old game, this, isn't it? And obviously getting to the final, which was 1-0, but it was a bit of a non-event because of how good Arsenal were at the time. And the other one was having a bit of a hissy fit at Leeds when I got dropped for the game. Gary McAllister dropped me for the game against Histon, which was on TV at the time. And then 15 minutes into the game, I looked at my former teammate on my Portel phone and thought, really glad I've been dropped for that because it was off. Pitch was boggy. We were making a meal of it. We got knocked out. It was a cup upset, and you're kind of going, well, not my fault, lads. You know what I mean? Giving it a good team spirit and all that. But I think going into this one, am I right in thinking, is it on TV? Given the time that it is, on a rival channel that I've no clue what it's on. So, again, it's a chance, hopefully, for, obviously, COVID protocols notwithstanding, for the City ground to get relatively packed out. And even though Greg's absolutely phoning it in, he's sick of seeing Arsenal over the years. I just think it's a nice glimpse in possibly, if you are a bit romantic about that idea, you're looking at it thinking, well, I hope this fixture takes place again next season, but in the league.
Absolutely. Then I'll be excited. No, you've got me wrong with it. Play him in the league and then I'm excited. Absolutely.
Bring it on.
I can't be bothered. Yeah, Arsenal fan TV, all that rubbish. It's just awful. So
there's nothing in there that Greg said that I disagree with. So yeah.
Oh dear. Right. I think we'll leave it there for this week. So thanks very much to lots of people who watched along and dropped comments in. It does help. And if you like this, as ever, do give us a good rating on iTunes and subscribe on YouTube and iTunes and any other platform that is out there, because it does help people find this podcast, which really helps us. Prutz, thank you very much for joining us yet again. We appreciate it very much.
My pleasure, chaps. It's always a pleasure to talk to you both. And as it's getting increasingly rosier, it's even more delightful, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. Well, the first question was, why does David Prutton hate Forest? So you can no longer hate Forest.
Matt, we've spoken about this in depth, haven't we?
Too many times for me to bring it up.
It's a real misconception, which the more you try and write a misconception, the more it sounds desperately like you're trying to backtrack. So let's, you know how pure my heart is when it comes to Nottingham Forest. So let's leave it at that, shall we?
Absolutely. Well, no one has a purer heart for Nottingham Forest than Greg. So, Greg, thank you very much.
No, cheers. I was going to say, get Don Goodman on next week and ask him there.
Well, apparently, and this is the perception that you get. So, I went to watch the Leeds game of the week with my son, and the fella on the door kind of half went, "You're right." And I went, "Yeah," and he came in and he said, "Oh, what is it with you lot hating Leeds?" I was like, "Oh, God, not you as well." I said, Don Goodman. I said, "You know, he's born in Leeds and is a Leeds fan." He went, "He's never nice about us." And I was like, "Okay, I'll tell him." Keith Andrews. I said, "What's Keith done now? Jesus." Doesn't like us either. Right. Okay. And anyone else? And he kind of chunted a bit and laughed, and it just kind of made me laugh, that kind of perception. But then it's like, I suppose it's like, not that it happens a lot, because people hopefully are quite nice. It's like someone slagging off one of your kids, isn't it? Or thinking that they've slagged off one of your kids. You're going to instantly go and front up and say, "I'm sorry." But don't worry. There's, like I said, we're all wholly objective, neutral, and hopefully that comes across.
Who does your son support?
Southampton.
Oh, okay.
Because his granddad played for him. Literally the only reason.
Oh dear. There you go.
Right. But we'd gone to this, and I'm boring you now, and I'm running the clock on. But we'd gone to this Leeds versus Arsenal, so Greg would have hated it. And it was in these quite nice posh seats that I got through a contact of mine, and subsequently cheered all 4 Arsenal goals in the Leeds hospitality end. And I'm thinking, we're not going to get out of here. Can you stop doing this loudly? But then I went. We took him the other day to go and see Leeds Burnley.
Is he frozen, Greg?
He has. Yeah, I thought it was me.
No, he's frozen. Well,
could have been the best.
He's back. He's back.
I finished it off with an absolute zinger, but you're never going to know what that is.
What happened at Leeds Burnley before you freeze again?
The one, and now he's a Leeds fan. But, so
okay.
I'm telling you, Greg, kids these days, they'll support anybody that they get free tickets for. It's pathetic.
True. My boy wants to support Leicester. I've said that on here before. Like, no,
what?
Can't have that. I know. Well, I live in Leicester. Yeah.
Doesn't
remember, there's no bad kids, only bad parents.
Mm. Yeah, I'd go with that now.
Well, the amount of time they spent watching YouTube and playing Nintendo this holiday suggests they've clearly got bad parents. So, yeah, you're probably right. Right, that's a good note to end it on. Thanks very much, everyone. There's still a lot of people watching this. Are watching, so fair play to them. We'll see everyone on Monday when we'll look back on the win against boring Arsenal, which Greg won't care about. See everyone soon. Thank you very much.